Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and we've just about reached the end, everyone. The last episode of Dickinson. This is the last episode of Dickinson Season 3, the last episode of the entire series, and of course, the last episode that I will be reviewing. The episode is called This Was a Poet, and I don't fully know how well I can preview this without spoilers, but I will do my best. Before we get started, I am going to say that I just got my booster today, so hopefully by the time I start filming, I won't have any side effects kicking in, but I know that back when I got my second dose, I spent most of the next day sleeping. I was fine after that, but I figured I would give the heads up anyway, because if I am in any way feeling lethargic, I don't want it to come across like that is a reflection of my opinions about the final episode of Dickinson. I just really needed to film this review today to get things done in a timely manner. I'm also only filming the spoiler-free video today because I have not yet written the spoiler review, even though normally I film both my spoiler-free and spoiler reviews of an episode at the same time. And obviously, as you can see, I'm filming on my computer because it's easier for me to set up. We can of course start today's video off with a song preview. It's the last time I can do this though. Presumably it means nothing to the people that quickly went through all of the songs released from the Season 3 soundtrack, but I was told a few weeks ago that some viewers did not look up the entire soundtrack in advance and they prefer to just have a small preview at a time. To each their own. This week's song preview is a song called Hell and Back by Bakar. As always, I will link the song in the description box so you can go stream it if you've not already done so. Episode 10 is largely about wrapping up the loose ends of the season and, in a way, the show overall. Obviously, we are all aware of the fact that the show is called Dickinson and the story is first and foremost about Emily Dickinson. However, we've seen that the show has often made an effort to keep multiple plates spinning at the same time. So you have this broader ensemble of characters that have had various arcs spanning individual seasons, as well as the show in its entirety. This is entirely my speculation, so please don't presume that I'm putting words into the mouths of the creative team that has made this show. But the impression I get, purely as a viewer, and as someone who has become increasingly studious about both the creative and technical process of filmmaking in the entertainment industry, is that this episode seems to be done the way that it is, so that you don't have to rush showing the ending for any of these characters. Throughout this season, there have been some episodes where certain lead characters only appear for maybe one scene. So this episode seems to be done in such a way that you get to see a lot of the characters that have been regular members of the show's ensemble and get to spend time with them and achieve a sense of resolution to their storylines for this season, or get that deeper sense of their growth and evolution across the entire series. If you've been keeping up with my reviews of the episodes on a weekly basis, then you may remember that I said that episode 8 was the most dramatic of this season, and neither episode 9 nor episode 10 would be at that same level of drama. If you take a graph of the 3-act structure that a lot of feature films tend to follow, episode 8 would have been the peak of the rising action. Episode 9 and episode 10 have really been more of that downward curve where you achieve those final resolutions or closure to the overall story. I never really had a clear idea of how I wanted Dickinson to end. I didn't have time to do as deep of a dive as the show's most avid fans into the numerous interviews on video and in print with the show's cast and crew, or even the historical research into Emily Dickinson specifically. You probably have already noticed that I tend to reference more historical things that have to do with socio-political matters than I have historical things about Emily Dickinson when reviewing the show. But in a way, I think it's worked out well, because then the fans who know more about those details just drop those trivia points into my comment section and they can fill in the blanks for me. It's been this nice symbiotic relationship. Anyway, my point in bringing this up is that since I didn't have expectations for how I wanted the show to end, there was far less risk of me nitpicking the ending of the show. I don't know if a lot of the people in the fandom have strong expectations of what they want to see in the ending or not. I said back when I did my earliest review coverage of season 3 that I liked the ending, because I do, but that I didn't want to go so far as to say that all of the fans will love it. I don't think it's realistic to homogenize an entire fandom and act like everyone will have the same opinions about the show's material, or that they will have a unanimous opinion about the execution of the finale. I appreciate that they did a fair bit to wrap up certain storylines and really give the viewers the time to sit with these characters and say their goodbyes to them. On its own, I don't think the episode is as flashy or bombastic of an occasion as some of the other episodes the show has given us. But if we remember that after this episode airs, and the entire series will then be available to watch and rewatch over and over again as many times as you would like, I think the ending works very well. If you think about this show as a giant mural, this finale fits well into the bigger picture. I'm being cautious with my words because I know how much my viewing experience can get interfered with when I go into it expecting a lot. I don't want to rehash my opinions about Steven Spielberg's West Side Story because I already posted a review of it, but to paraphrase, because I'm a huge fan of the play Romeo and Juliet and the way that West Side Story, the musical and feature film, have adapted that play, I couldn't help but nitpick certain details of this latest adaptation, and I'm well aware of the fact that there are plenty of people that could watch the new film and not care about those details because they are not deeply entrenched into the many layers and nuances of why Romeo and Juliet is a genius work of art. I don't want to be the one who comes on here and says, the finale is great, perfect way to end the show, and have someone watching that review come back and yell at me later because they found something in the finale that they didn't like, that I never could have anticipated them taking issue with. My hope for the fans that have loved this show over the years that it has aired is that they will celebrate the many ways that it has broken new creative boundaries, that it has been able to do so many things, even with only 3 seasons, with only 10 episodes per season, and with only 30 minutes per episode. It is a show that has used its time so efficiently. They have managed to cram so much into the writing and reference so many things to do with Emily Dickinson's history, US history, and even occasionally world history. Remember, they mentioned the French occupation of Vietnam. I have loved the way it has not been afraid to play with surrealism. Also, as an aspiring storyteller myself, I really appreciate having another artistic reference for how to effectively manage a large ensemble of characters. I have more than one script idea involving a larger ensemble of characters, and I would much rather use a show like Dickinson as a reference of how to do that well than something like Love Actually, which is a film I have increasingly soured on over the years. The best story in it by far is Bill Nighy's story, but I will not argue about that, and I will not be swayed from that opinion. Not every recurring character from Dickinson appears in the finale. I don't know if it's a spoiler to say this, but I guess I can risk it. Those side characters like Toshiaki or Abby, they're not going to be making an appearance. A lot of this is just about the main characters that we've seen that are in the core family unit. If you really think about the themes of this season and what has been addressed, and even if you think about certain recurring storylines of this season that have yet to reach a real conclusion or a resolution, then you can probably deduce on your own multiple things that will be occurring in this episode. Instead of the show going out with a bang, like I said before, episode 8 was the bang, and I guess episode 9 was too, no pun intended, unless you think it's funny. Episode 10 is more so about leaving the audience with a feeling of hope and tranquility. Hopefully that's not saying too much. Apple TV publicists, please don't yell at me. I'm assuming they won't. They've ignored me for the entire time that I've reviewed this show, so I'm assuming they don't care, but that's besides the point. I've enjoyed Dickinson more and more with each season because of the increasingly large topics it has chosen to address and the maturation of certain characters. I really don't know what else to say. Did I botch this? I said last week I was anxious about writing this. It's challenging to try to preview an episode and not give anything major away. But I hope as many of you enjoy this finale as possible. Even if you don't like it, it can't be worse than The Rise of Skywalker. Ooh, no, she did it! Should I not do that? Should I not kick the hornet's nest? That's a great film, by the way. Luftslottet som sprängdes. If you've not seen that trilogy, you are missing out. It's a dark trilogy, though, so look up the premise beforehand if you're sensitive to the subject matter of what it's addressing. Cannot believe they chose such a terrible English title. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That is not what the original title is. The original title is Män som hatar kvinnor, which means men who hate women, which is so much more powerful of a title and directly addresses the theme of systemic misogyny, which is what that series is tackling. But you didn't click on this video to hear me rant about political Swedish crime films, so I'll just shelve that rant. I'll see you all next week, though, to finish up my thoughts on the finale, when I will be able to freely talk about all of the spoilers. And of course, I will also be talking about the Emistu arc for season 3. So if there's anything specific you want me to address about that, leave it in the comments, and I will do my best to try to make sure that I address the main points of what the audience is inquiring about. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.